1 minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
You got to have a concept. You have a great concept. You guys are doing it, man, and it's an honor for me to just be, a small rock, man, in your mountain. I'm gonna pop a top in your honor. Mr. Doc Walker blessed us with his presence and knowledge.
We want to welcome in our next special guest, Haley Skarupa. She's a 3-time world champion in women's ice hockey and most recently won Olympic gold with Team USA.
The Cap Stadium Series is definitely my favorite, obviously. I'm a huge Caps fan. I always have been. And to be there at that game with my teammates and for us to bring, our gold medals to there and share it with everyone in this area was really, really special for me. And just the support, and it's been tremendous from everyone in this area. And you could feel that there at that game.
Now, here's Sports on the Hill podcast.
That's right. It's Monday night. Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, CP3, live from the lab, World Series preview, Capitals, Nationals. We even going to talk a little Wizards tonight with the NBA season starting. And we even going to talk a little XFL because, we're the only show that covers all DC sports like we did with the Mystics before they won the championship this year. We was bringing it to you live on Sports on the Hill podcast every Monday night. As always, I'd like to thank you, the listeners and contributors, folks that like our stuff, folks that share our stuff, folks that's part of our social media family. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, checking us out, checking out our news that we put out, because you can go anywhere else, but you choose to tune in to us, and we greatly appreciate that. So let your folks know it's some real DC sports news and DC sports media out here on these airwaves. As always, you can check us out. You can call in on the True Radio Network hotline at 347-884-9299. Lines are always open. You call in with any questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to get off of your chest. As I mentioned, we got a full show tonight. I know we got Robbie G on the line. We got Anna K on the line. We're going to get that great Capitals coverage. Then we're going to get into some Nats talk and World Series coverage. Then we're going to take a little music break. Then we have to talk about, we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now we got to talk about the ugly. With the Redskins losing yesterday, 9-0 to the 49ers, which I'm sure Anna's very happy about, and she's probably going to speak on that a little bit during Caps Talk. So we have to give her time to shine. And then after we talk a little NFL, we'll talk a little XFL, and then we'll delve deeper into the World Series and preview this matchup between the Houston Astros and the Nationals, where the Nationals are actually the underdog. But like I said, we got a lot to go, a lot to talk about, and let's see if Robbie G is on the line and ready to rock and roll. What's going on, Robbie?
How you doing? Yeah, I'm excited. We're both doing different live streams and trying out a bunch of new stuff. So I'm live over at twitch.tv/RobbieG_SportsOTHP. Also, you can catch me on my wall, and I shared it to our Facebook group, facebook.com/SportsOTHP, where you find all the latest stuff. You can also go to sportsothp.com. got all the latest links and got the videos from yesterday, and we did a ton of post-game baseball recaps as well, so definitely check all those out. Every time the Nationals win, we do a post-game live show on that as well. So lots of fun stuff to cover. I'm really excited for this show. We had a really tough week to start with hockey, but then it got a lot better. So I'm looking forward to bringing Anna in next, and we can talk about that and a little baseball with Brian Brennan and some other guests in a little bit, and then obviously the football, which is the down note for us, but I know Anna is a big 49ers fan, so I'm sure she was happy with that 9-0 result.
Yeah, definitely she was. So we're going to go ahead and bring Anna and let her get her San Francisco joy on real quick before we get into this Capitals recap. So Anna, you weren't able to make it out to Martinez. It was, in my opinion, just to give a little tease, I think it was a decent game. San Francisco was a good team, and they did what good teams do, find a way to win no matter how many points they score. So I'll let you go ahead and get your gloat on for a little while before we get into cash talk.
I'll be singing my praises, if that's okay, for the next little bit. I will say I'm so bummed I could not do Martinis yesterday. It would have been so fun, but I had that mom carpool thing going on for my daughter's swim practice. But I will say it was an interesting game. It was a slip and slide, a lot of, plays I thought, how did you not get that? But okay, I understand because the field, the rain. The teams, it was good. It was good. It wasn't a complete wipeout, no pun intended, but it was nice to see, the Niners go 6-0 for the first time since 1990. Will it continue? Not likely. But that's okay. It's good to see that they're kind of getting their groove back a little bit, and who knows? We'll see what happens. But I am glad I wasn't at the game because, I don't know, I could never live in Green Bay and sit through all, the snow blizzard games, but I definitely could not have sat through yesterday's game just being wet, drenched the whole game. So I was happy to watch it at home with a couple cocktails and be like, look at you, Jimmy G, redeeming yourself. And that's it. That's my little 49er soapbox.
All right. Well, like I said, it was a good game. Unfortunately, the Redskins didn't prevail. Got shut out at home, but we'll definitely talk more about that in the 8 o'clock hour when we get Dugenet on the line, breaking this game down and looking forward to the game on Thursday night versus Minnesota. Let's get into the 3-1 weekend review for the Capitals, and let's break these games down.
All right, sure thing. So, unfortunately, we're not kicking off with the best game. But you know what? We're going to talk about it, and we're going to move on. So Monday, the Caps welcomed the Avalanche. Definitely not a good game, but here we go. So first period, Colorado scored 4 goals. So that was a little hard to swallow. And you have, within 8 minutes, the goals and Reardon pulling Holtby. So kind of didn't really see that happening, but, it was for the best in the end. Second period had a Cap scoring with Eller at 6:56, assisted by the captain, and then TJ Oshie scoring his 4th this season, assisted by Orlov and Kuzi. The third had the Avalanche scoring at 4:24, followed by Ovechkin scoring his 5th, assisted by Kuzi, and giving Carlson his 9th assist. We'll have to talk about number 74 at some point because, God, he is on a roll. But then we have McKenna, who closed out the third with an empty netter for a 6-3 loss. This is a rough game. This was truly a rough game, and this was supposed to be the game I was supposed to go to for Teacher Appreciation Night. Kind of glad I didn't go. But I don't know. I don't know what you guys saw, but I saw a lot of inconsistency, a lot of missed passes, very sloppy plays, and people using the excuse that because they had to drop the puck 2 hours earlier, that's what threw them off. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse. This was just not a good game.
Yeah, Kara, do you want to?
I totally agree. Like we were doing the show, and me and Robbie were jumping around, and we turned our head, and it was 3-0. I didn't even see how they scored that quickly. I mean, they put up some fight, tried to come back, but this was just one of those games you gotta, throw away as an early season, dud, and just build off of it and don't repeat that performance, which we saw later on in the week. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's going to be some bad games throughout this season. I don't think that's quite fair to blame it on the earlier start because, in theory, Colorado is from a different time zone, so it's even earlier for them. So, for me, that's kind of a cop-out excuse. But I was happy that the Capitals were able to fight their way back in it. I think there was a disallowed goal somewhere in there where it even got almost closer, if I remember correctly. And so, but even to get to 5-3, if that wasn't right, but I sort of remember us getting closer, or almost getting closer, but then something happened. But either way, to get it to 5-3 even was impressive. Obviously, it was an empty netter to make it look even worse, but I was happy that there was some fight, that they just didn't roll over and die. I think that they were able to take some of the momentum from that game into the next one.
Yeah,
let's go ahead and on to the next.
Yep. So Wednesday, we go ahead with the Caps playing Toronto and DC. The Leafs score the first two goals in the first until number 13. Jacob Vrana scores his third at 18:59, assisted by Carlson and Hathaway. The second period was dominated by the Caps. At 5:07, Kuzi scores his third. 11 seconds later, Baxton scores, assisted by Oshie and Jensen. And then less than a minute later, Carlson scores a PPG with assist by Ovi and Backstrom, giving a 4-2 Caps lead going into the third. Tavares closes out the third with a goal, but the Caps still win 4-3. And this, to me, this is Caps hockey. It was impressive. There was chemistry, minimal penalties. And I think that whatever had happened against the Avalanche, they had a huge, let's hope, a coaching wake-up call and player wake-up call within those 48 hours because they came out as a completely different team and looked so tight. And I thought so good. And Carlson is just awesome this season.
Yeah, I thought...
Before we get to Carlson, I didn't like the way the game started. First of all, going up a shorthanded goal and then going down 2-0, I believe, in the first 10 minutes of the game. Luckily, they were able to, whatever they talked about in between intermissions, and that one goal they scored at the end of the first definitely propelled them in the second. But we can't have those slow starts, especially when you saw Colorado put up 3 in the span of 7 minutes in the last game. They kind of started off in that same trend, but luckily they were able to stand up defensively and get the offense going with some beautiful puck movement and some nice plays. But you saw against Colorado, you can't be spotting folks 2 and 3 goal leads.
So I had a bit of a different take on it. They had played the night before against Minnesota. They were able to actually get that win. Obviously, Toronto put in their backup goalie, and it was a battle of the backups where I think Samsonov, I'm trying to get his name right, as Joe B says it, I thought he played a great game. I thought that the shorthanded one was unlucky, but they knew that they had to come out on fire because they knew that the legs wouldn't last through the game. So you knew that they were going to have to try to build up a lead. I thought that the Capitals did a pretty good job of weathering that storm and then putting together a really solid second period and just wearing down Toronto, knowing they had played the previous night. And I thought that Toronto looked very tired by the end of it. The only goal they were able to get from then on was a 6-on-5 goal by John Tavares, which was a pretty goal. But they had an extra man for almost a minute or two at that point. So I thought that, that was, for the most part, they played their game. And I just think that John Carlson has played so well over the last couple of games. We'll definitely talk about him a lot. But, he's been not breaking records, but at least breaking records for Caps D-men. But also up there in the ranks of all-time greatest Octobers for any D-man through 10 games. So he's just been playing lights out. I was happy that Kuzi got a goal with an assist by John Carlson. I thought Nicky Backstrom got a great goal with the TJ Oshie assist. And I thought then John Carlson got a goal of his own on the power play with Ovi and Backey getting assists on that. I just thought they were clicking, and I thought that they played better defensively in front of their goaltender. and just all around put together a better game. I agree it didn't start off so great, but I thought that was more of Toronto trying to put a commanding lead up on Washington so that way they could sit back because they knew they were going to get tired. But that plan obviously faltered. And it was interesting listening to some Toronto media after that game. I always listen to Steve Dangle after every Toronto game, actually. And, he was talking about how he thinks it's a terrible idea to have their backup goalie always in the second half, that in certain situations that maybe they need to switch that up. And I don't necessarily disagree with that mentality. And he just thought that you're trying to always get the 2 points in the first game, but if you don't get them, then you're basically squandering all 4 points. And that's a mentality will only win you half the games. So it was interesting to hear it from their point of view. They really...
If you don't have faith in your backup goalie to be able to get a win, then that's a deeper issue than a back-to-back. That's saying something about your team, and it doesn't have nothing to do about a back-to-back because everyone else has to do the same things. And, if you put it on your backup goalie and counting that as an automatic loss, then that's a bigger issue than the back-to-back schedule. That's just my opinion on that one.
Well, let me get a rebuttal on that because I agree it's not all about the backup goalie. He thinks he would be fine in front of a rested decor, but he thinks that the backup goalie should get the first game with a rested decor, and then when the defense is a little bit shaky and a little, tired from the night before, that's when you want to have your star goalie behind them to make some of those key saves. So that's the thought process, that you put the better goalie when you're tired.
I can see the logic, but I can't agree with it.
All right, that's fair. So luckily we're not Toronto fans, so we don't need to break it down too much. So, but either way, I thought it was interesting to hear it from their point of view.
True. Let's get on to the next game. Anna, let's break this down. A game against the Rangers.
Yeah, so finally on Friday, the Caps played the Rangers. TK Oshie opened up the scoring with the PPG unassisted at 2:24. The Rangers scored next, but at 15-16, I got to gloat on this one. Michael Kempney, our number 6, who first game after that horrific injury last season, scores his first goal, his first game back with assist by Ovi and Carlson. Second period has Nick Dowd scoring his first of the season with assist by Orlov and again. Number 74, John Carlson with his 13th. The Rangers score at 16:56, making it 3-2 Caps going into the third. And the third period was all about the Caps. At 10:18, Oshie scores another PPG. And at 19:32, Hathaway scores his second with an empty netter for a 5-2 final. This was definitely the game that I think for all the players, or not the players, the fans out there that were doubting Holtby and like, oh, we should trade him, or this and that. Holt redeemed himself and then some on this game. He was fantastic. He was on it. And you put him up against the King, and it was a perfect match. And this was a great game. I thoroughly enjoyed this game, and I especially enjoyed watching Hathaway fight. He's a badass, and he might be my second Tommy favorite, but those are big shoes to fill, so I don't know yet.
Sounds to me like you just like violent guys, and I think that's what is starting to be a trend here. But the Rangers game, I didn't really get to keep a close eye on this game. I was watching off and on, but it was definitely we saw a different Caps team that we had seen from the beginning of the season. Different as in they came out, from the jump like they were ready to play, and it wasn't coming from behind. We saw a solid defense, like you say. Hopi played a hell of a game in net. And it's good to see them trying to get their stride because the week before, was a little bumpy with some of those losses that they took.
Yeah, it was a really interesting game for me because if the King wasn't in goal for the Rangers, I mean, it would have been horrifically bad. I mean, he made some incredible saves in the first and second period to even keep this game close. I mean, I thought it could have been 5-1 at the middle of the second period. It was almost like a shooting gallery going. Obviously we got 2 to get through with that Oshie and the Kempney goals that were great. I thought Nick Dowd made a fantastic play, finding that puck and shooting it off. And Dmitry Orlov also, I think, has been playing very well this year. He set that up nicely. Went right off the post and bounced right to Nick Dowd. John Carlson got an assist. He had already gotten 13 assists by that point. TJ Oshie got another power play goal, so 2 in that game. And I agree that Garrett Hathaway just had himself a fight. Didn't get himself an assist, but was able to get the empty netter. It's always funny how the puck seems to find him, but I thought it was a great assist by Carl Hagelin. Carl had an opportunity to maybe shoot it himself. He saw Garrett streaking down the side and knew that he had himself a game and should get rewarded for that. So I like the chemistry that is coming on some of these bottom 6 lines. I think that's going to be huge for us. I think the bottom 6 was firing on all cylinders when we won the Stanley Cup, and I think that's what we're going to need again. And I really like how this team is coming together. And as you said, Holtby had a bad game, but he is one of the best goaltenders in the league at having great bounce-back games. And, I think it's pretty funny reading a lot of those horrible things on Cap's message boards on Facebook saying, oh, we got to trade him, we got to, do all these things. And it's like, no, he often starts off slow. Holtby is not known for starting the season strongly, but he's known for finishing the season strongly. And that's more important. And I think that, Cap fans need to slow the roll. You got to wait till 20 games into the season before you really have a sense on who the teams were, because last week we were in the middle of the pack. This week we're the number 2 team in the Eastern Conference and number 1 in the Metro. So things can shift really quickly in the early part of the season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I will say I didn't acknowledge it before because I was kind of praising Hathaway for his fight, but I have to give props to Gudis. I just have to. He has been playing smart, sick hockey, and I love the fact that he is, he's been sticking up for the Kempney hit. Last night it was against Ovechkin. He has truly embraced the Capitals. Might have taken myself and maybe a couple other fans to truly embrace him. But you know what? He's proving himself, and I like him. I like when I see him, who he's going to be paired up with. I like what he does on the ice. He plays smart hockey, and it isn't all about dropping the gloves, but when he does, I love it.
Yeah, I think he's
good as, it's all good.
Yeah, I think he really fills kind of that Brooks Orpik role. We needed that once Orpik retired, and I think a lot of people were questioning that move when Orpik came over because it was a very expensive contract for someone so late in their career. But we obviously saw that veteran leadership paid off in a big way for us. I think that he can be that guy for us, or maybe like if you think about like a John Erskine in a previous time. I think that there's still a role for an enforcer in hockey. I know that hockey has gone faster, and I know that our 4th line has gotten faster, but I definitely like that we've got some of these physical people sprinkled around the roster, so that way no line can sort of just be taken lightly. I like the fact that we have enforcers both on the D side and on the forward side. It doesn't put it all on Tommy anymore. Tommy could focus on goal scoring and assists and other things as well, and if he still needs to drop the gloves, I'm sure he will. But I like the fact that he doesn't need to be our number 1 enforcer anymore, that we've got somebody like Gudis and some of these other guys that can step into that role, because we're going to need Tommy to score too. I love Tommy fighting, but I think that he is actually a more valuable goal scorer and playmaker than a lot of teams want to give him credit for.
Well, we saw an adjustment in his game. We saw an adjustment in his game on the Stanley Cup run, and with the suspensions he received, and them noticing how closely they were watching him, and with him making the choice in the preseason not to play against Columbus because he or whatever. I think it was, I can't remember what team it was.
It was the Blues.
Whatever team he decided to sit out. The Blues, that's right. Yeah, he decided to sit out because he knew that something would probably happen. He didn't want to jeopardize being in the same situation of missing the game, missing the start of the season due to an unnecessary suspension in a preseason game that meant nothing. So, I like Gudis. I always liked him, even though he played for Philly. So I knew he was going to bring a certain toughness and solid play on the ice. So, it's just a bonus that he's, embracing the team like that.
For sure. All right, well, let's get into that Blackhawks game that was yesterday that I thought was a fantastic game. And I'm so happy that our friend Zach, friend of the show, who's called in many times before, who lives up in the middle part of the country, he was able to go to his annual Chicago game where the last 2 years it had not gone so well for them, where I believe a total of 15 goals were scored in the last 2 times we played in Chicago. We'd beaten them many times in a row in Washington, but it's been a while since we had actually won in Chicago. I was happy that we were able to turn things around and get a big victory there. But Anna, walk us through that game.
Okay, so last night was the first away game for this long stretch on the road. And once again, here we have TJ Oshie scoring first against Chicago with the TPC at 9:25. Assisted by Kuzi. Second period had the Hawks scoring first, but at 9:53, we have Nick Dowd again scoring the second of his season, assisted by Hagelin, making it 2-1 Caps. The captain scores his sixth at 3:52 in the third, with assists by Carlson and Kempney, which was Kempney's first. The Hawks scored twice within 4 minutes, tying the score 3-3, but at 11:47, there we go, Tommy Wilson scores his third with assists by Hagelin and Eller. And then just to end the game on a happy note, at 19:10, Eller scores an empty netter, giving the Capitals a 5-3 win. And I couldn't agree with you guys more. This was an awesome game, and I found this to be, of all the games, of the last 4 games, where we truly saw 60 minutes of hockey from the Capitals. We saw the chemistry, and we knew it was going to be a physical game, and the boys were able to come out and play smart. We did have, a couple moments here and there, but overall, yeah, this is a very exciting, like kind of on-edge game, and you can't, when you're going up against Hayes, you just know what's going to happen. So I think that this is a really good way for them to kick off their stretch on the road.
Yeah.
Very true, very true. I had the game on, but I wasn't paying close attention. I was in all of my World Series preview for the Nets, so we're definitely going to get into that shortly. So I'll let Robbie break down the game since he watched more closely than I did, since I'm wrapped up in this whole national fever thing, man.
Right. Yes. No, I watched this game very closely. I love the first period defensively. And it's sort of a weird thing. I'm more of a goal scorer and offensive guy. I know Carroll tends to be more of a defensive guy, but I thought we were able to lock it down so that one opportunity with the TJ Oshie on the power play was able to be converted, assist by Kuzi. But I thought that the whole rest of the period they played fantastic defensively, and that continued into the second. I know that they scored 8:25, but I like that we came right back because they scored and then they got a double minor, or we committed a double minor. The Capitals did, and I thought, oh no, this is where the game could go south pretty quickly. Because they could maybe get 2 goals during the double minor, and then you go from being up 1-0 to like down 3-1 or a situation like that. But Nick Dowd just did a great play. Another pass by Carl Hagelin that was right on the seam. He seems to get these guys out going, which I really like. Because Carl's speed is huge, and so teams have to play him for his speed, which opens up other opportunities for streaking forwards on the other wing. Nick Dowd took that spot in this situation and got a shorthanded goal, which I'm already impressed that we have a couple of shorties already on this young season, when last year we had very few. So that was 2-1, and then we were able to kill the rest of that penalty kill. And that was huge for us to take a 2-1 lead into the third. Ovechkin, great goal, as Ovi does, took a great pass in the seam from John Carlson and Kempney to make it 3-1. It was so fast I had to rewind it a bunch of times. Then we had a little bit of a defensive lapse, and that's going to happen. Chicago pushes. I was disappointed. The first goal was, I think, a little bit more acceptable. I think that the Kane one, you can't leave Kane streaking like that, and tied it up. So just in 3 minutes or 4 minutes, they were able to tie that game up. But I was really happy that Tom Wilson, just a couple of minutes later, took another great pass from Carl Hagelin. Lars Eller also passed it to him. I thought Lars played a great game that maybe even the box score doesn't show. But we were able to take that 4-3 lead. And then I love that once again, the player that was really committed to defense and offense and setting other people up all game long was able to get that empty net goal at the end. So that was really great. I'm going to just preview the upcoming games real fast because I know that we've got our baseball guys on the line. The 3 games that are this week is we've got a Flames game at 9 p.m. Tomorrow. There's a baseball game that you may have heard with us in the World Series at 8 o'clock. So I'll definitely be watching the Man Cave with both TVs going. It should be a fun night for DC sports fans. Just a couple of days later, on Thursday, a night off for Nats fans, it's going to be another 9 o'clock game against the other team from that province, the Oilers. So that will be a good game. Then the Capitals finish their Canadian West Coast swing against the Canucks. That's a Friday game. That game will be at 10 o'clock p.m., so a little bit of a later game. But there will also be a Nationals game. That game will be at Nats Park, so that'll be an 8 o'clock game. So once again, the DC sports fans will have the double dip. And that will conclude the games for this upcoming weekend. We'll recap all 3 of those next week at a regular time because there will be no baseball game next Monday. There's the games in DC are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, day off, Monday, hopefully, and then there'll be a Tuesday, Wednesday to conclude that series. So we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But Anna, thanks so much for joining us. Again, if anyone wants to check out her great podcast with Gil, they can check out SportsOTHP.com and click on the Power Play Point podcast link with all their latest shows right there. Also, they can find it on Podbean as well as many other sites. But Anna, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk more Caps next week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and I will be polling for that early W tomorrow for you guys. Absolutely. Go Washington, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you so much.
All right, Anna, appreciate it. You have a good night. Appreciate the time as always.
All righty. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right. As always, great coverage for the Capitals we get from Anna. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We about to switch gears a little bit. Get ready to get into some Nats talk. We got Paul, the boxing guy, on the line. He also loves baseball, boxing and baseball, the 2 of his favorite pastimes. And we got Brian Brenner on the line. We can break down recap the NLCS since when we last spoke. The Nats are up 2-0, looking to close out the Cardinals, and we definitely can talk about the Yankee series that I know Brian has some few hateful things to say about the Astros to get the Nats fans ready to root against them in this World Series. So I know he's chomping at the bit, and I know Paul, the boxing guy, after watching his video after Game 5 of the Dodgers series, I know he got some strong things to say also. So let me get these guys on the line and see what these guys got to say tonight. Paul, what's going on, my brother? It's been a while since we've had you on the show.
Carl, Robbie, it's great to be back on. What's going on with y'all?
We're good. We're very excited.
Just basking in the glow of World Series talk, baby.
Hey, look, if you'd have told me 18 years ago that we have a World Series in DC, I'd say, man, what you smoking?
Yeah, it's definitely, definitely good to see this. And since it's the World Series preview show, and, talking trash is what we do when we've been on the record and been right, Paul, we can go back to when the team was 12 games under 500 and everyone was throwing in the towel and talking about firing Davey and trading Max and, where is this team going from here? And me and you was riding with this team, and we kind of said that this team would make the playoffs. We didn't say World Series, but we did say playoffs. So, I just want folks to know, we do know what we're talking about in some aspect when it comes to these sports. But let's get Brian Brennan involved. I know he's probably seething on the other line after the out of the series yesterday. Brian, how you doing today, man? You didn't break your TV or nothing, did you?
No, I'm still in recovery from the Yankees loss, but I'm definitely ready to talk a little baseball tonight.
All right, that's good. That's good to hear, man. I hate to see those, you see those YouTube clips when folks be, breaking their TV after a game, and I had a vision of you when that Altuve walk-off after they, tied it up in the top of the ninth, Yeah, I had a vision of you. I was hoping you didn't do anything that rash.
No, that's not me, Carol. That's not me. I'm not destroy your TV upset.
That's good, man, because I can never understand that either. But let's go ahead and get into the recap of the NLCS. Game 3 was an 8-1 victory by the Nats. Strasburg took the mound. He went 7 innings, giving up 7 hits, 1 run, not earned, or was on the air, had 12 strikeouts and no walks. That dude's been pitching phenomenal. It's good to have him on the squad. We're definitely going to talk about the opt-out situation that he might be in. We'll definitely talk about that a little bit, because that's an interesting situation for the team and for him. Quick scoring on that game. Nats jumped out on top in the bottom of the third. Adam Eaton had an RBI single, scoring Robles. Rendon had an RBI double, scoring Eaton. Howie Kendrick had a double, scoring Rendon and Soto, giving the Nats a 4-0 lead at the bottom of the third. They also, Howie got back in the act in the bottom of the fifth with the RBI double, scoring Rendon, and then Zim hit an RBI double, scoring Howie, which gave the Nats a 6-0 lead. Then Robles hit a solo home run in the bottom of the sixth, which was special for him because it's the first time his mom got to see him play pro ball live. And he hit a solo home run, giving the Nats a 7-0 lead. And in the bottom of the seventh, Zim hit an RBI single, scoring Howie Kendrick after he hit his third double of the night, giving the Nats an 8-1 lead and finishing the game at that. Paul, I'll go to you first. What did you think about that game, and how did you like the way the Nats fared in that game 3 with the kind of the pressure on them to come home to try to maintain the 2-game sweep they did in St. Louis?
Well, I was already nervous, man. We Washington fans, we national fans, so we've seen some epic meltdowns in the postseason. So every game from the play-in game all the way through the Dodgers, especially how they had to come back from behind a couple times early on. I didn't expect them to perform this way against the Cardinals, man. I mean, one can say you hope your team is dominant, but like you said, Carol, about Strasburg, you alluded to how we've been on this team all year. Even when they were struggling with the worst bullpen ever, we kept saying it's still the best team they've had, we felt. And if they get that bullpen addressed, they'd be all right. And you've been saying Strasburg, and it's funny to say that he was quietly having a great season. I mean, you wouldn't expect that. Strasburg, people would know his name by now, right? But yeah, man, that dude was lights out. The bats came alive, man, and I'm hoping it'll stay like that. The thing is, though, it's just like that one guy for the Cardinals, man. Forgive me if I forget his first name, but that Martinez dude was getting on my damn nerves the whole series, man. That's the dude that I like on our squad, but that's a conversation for another day. But I was pleased, man. I was pleasantly surprised because I usually am superstitious about watching the games early on, and I was like, well, shit, I'm gonna watch this. I mean, it's the NLCS, man. Superstitions out the window, and I was happy, man. I mean, you heard me against the Dodgers, man, when they finally sealed the deal against them, and I was cussing out Clayton Kershaw like he hit me. So I was hyped for Game 1 the way they performed.
No doubt. Robbie, what do you think that we're going to Brian, the outside the box guy?
Yeah, I mean, I was very excited. I definitely did not think sweep at all. I thought that it would be much closer. The Cardinals play us tough. I thought that the starting pitching was legendary. I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week with the back-to-back performances. But to follow up those two performances with two almost equally masterful performances, I mean, the amount of strikeouts the starting pitchers were able to have, how few times they had base runners at the top of their lineup through all of them, how good our bullpen was. I just thought straight through, there was just such an incredible pitching performances. And then the bats came alive, and I thought that they all played for each other. And I love the little chomps of biting that they always do, to mimic sort of the baby shark, right? And I think that's sort of a great mentality. Just take little bites, just get a single, get a double, get the next guy going. And that old sort of adage, keep the trains rolling. I thought the number of two out hits that we got was really great. And just overall, I just thought they all played for each other. And I'm not saying they played mistake-free baseball. There was definitely a couple of mistakes here or there. But overall, I just thought that they played almost a perfect game for them. I mean, they're going to have to try to replicate some of that against the Astros. And I hope that the week off didn't cool down the bats. But I thought that the pitching side of things just really kind of blew me away. It was the pitching that we always dreamed of when we signed Corbin to sort of round out those that foursome, if you will. And it all kind of came to fruition. Everything that we had hoped for and everything that from the GM to the scouts to the players that they had all worked for in that second half of the season. I mean, they're now the hottest team in baseball since May. And, you know, it's a great thing that we're able to be in the World Series finally.
Yeah, Brian, what did you take away from that Game 3 8-1 victory the Nats were able to get over the Cardinals?
Yeah, I think you guys said it already. The starting pitching throughout this whole series was absolutely phenomenal for the Nationals. Just games 1 through 4, they were all great. And I think the best performance might have been Strauss in this game. One of the best performances for sure. 12 strikeouts, only 1 run allowed. And the bats, like you said, they showed up once again, the 4 runs to the 3rd inning, and just really kept piling on from there. And really, this was kind of a microcosm of the series. It wasn't even really close. St. Louis just did not show up offensively in this series at all, especially in the first 3 games. They were just completely lifeless. The Nationals pitching, like I said, did an incredible job. And, this was a great win to get them 1 win away from the World Series, which they would clinch the next night.
Yes, indeed. Perfect segue for Game 4, which was a 7-4 victory. Corbin took the mound. He went 5 innings, giving up 4 hits, 4 earned runs with 12 strikeouts and 3 walks. Daniel Hudson got the 4-out save, giving up no hits, no earned runs with no strikeouts and 1 walk. Scoring was all in the first inning for the Nationals. Rendon started off with a sacrifice fly. Then Juan Soto had an RBI double. Robles had an RBI single. Gomes had a 2 RBI single, and Trey Turner ended it off, rounding the lineup, going all the way around one good time with a 2 RBI single, giving the Nats a 7-0 lead. Cardinals put up a fight, put up 4 runs, could have got more, had the bases loaded, and Daniel Hudson came in with that 4-out save and got the crucial out to get out of that jam, and they got the 3 outs in the 9th to secure the Nationals going to their first World Series. It was a solid game. No one expected the Nats to put up 7 runs in the first. It's kind of ironic because that was the second best performance for the first in the game. The first was by the Cardinals the series before against the Braves when they put up 10 in the first, and they pretty much after that 3rd inning where they gave up another 2 runs, the Nats offense, the Nats pitching just shut them down, and the pitching was phenomenal. Anibal Sanchez started off with his performance. Max piggybacked on that. Strauss, and then Corbin, he started out hot when he struck out the first. He was the first pitcher in playoffs to ever strike out 10 hitters in the first 4 innings, and he was lights out. He was amped up. His slider was working, but then he had a little control issues. That's when they mounted a comeback. But for the most part, they're going to have rest. I'm not concerned about the pitching. I'm more concerned about the hitters and keeping their timing. And, we'll definitely talk about that more when we break down the World Series more after football talk. Paul, what did you take away from this clinching game? And did you have the same response to the Cardinals that you did to the Dodgers when the Nats completed the sweep?
It's crazy. Well, first, I messed up on my last time I said Game 1. I meant to say Game 3. I was kind of hyped because Game 1 and 2, they took those 2 no-hitters fairly deep into the game. But, my response after Game 4 wasn't like the Dodgers, right? So I'm watching it with my wife. I'm just sitting there, and I saw that pop fly go out for that 3rd out, right? And I saw Robles kind of wave his hands. I'm like, oh, man, please don't tell me he lost that damn ball. But, he didn't lose the ball. He was just clearing it out. So he caught it, and I was like, all right, should I be hype or what? I didn't know how I was going to react. And as soon as he caught that thing, I just started getting hyped, man. My wife was sitting there next to me. I was like, damn, I'm in every contest I can to win 2 tickets because I would love to be able to take my father at least to 1 game. But I was hyped, man. I mean, they started off as good as you can start off. I mean, even though they kind of, let them back in a little bit towards the end, I mean, I'm not begging, I'm not going to be greedy. This team has come a long way. This season alone, this team has come a long way just in general from the other years in the postseason when their bats would just go quiet inexplicably. And that, after a season of knocking home runs left and right. So I was pleased, man. It was just can't really say how hyped, it was. I mean, it was just like a long time coming. So I've been watching the team since they was in RFK. My son, before he was born, I remember before the Nationals played their first game, I bought him a Nationals hat at Babies R Us when they first announced the logo. And it's still sitting on my dresser. I'm like, oh, man, look at that. So those my dudes, man. I'm happy to say they're in the World Series, and I'm definitely looking forward to these Astros. I'm trying to hope it's for the Yankees, not because any matchup issues. Just, Yankees. You love to say Yankees in the World Series, but I'm not rooting for neither one of them in the AL anyway. So Houston, I want to bring it. Everybody want to talk about baseball pitching. We got that too. So definitely gonna be an interesting series to see.
So it's funny, if people are watching my feed on the camera, I actually have a big one of those things that you wave, like a towel, from the very first game in Nationals history that I still have hanging on my wall. And so it's really cool. It was the one in Philadelphia, because I was in college in Philly at the time, and I said, you know what, I'll take a chance on this team from my hometown, even though I never grew up with one other than the Orioles. But I'm happy I took a chance on that team. It took a little while for them to become my number one team. I'll give them, they're a bunch of 100 losses seasons, but I definitely, when Worth came over, I bought in, and ever since I've been a pretty diehard Nationals fan. So I was hoping to get to go to one of these World Series games with my dad, just as you talked about, but it unfortunately didn't work out. Those tickets are crazy, crazy expensive, but. I'm excited that I did get to go to one game with him this season, even if it was a loss. Just to say that I went to a game with him the year that we got to the World Series.
No doubt. Brian, so what did you take away from this clinching game with the Nats? I know you're probably watching it with Robbie, so how did you feel about this, and did you think that they would be able to pull off the sweep against the Cardinals, even though the first three games pretty much had dictated that?
I actually didn't watch this game with Robbie. I watched game 3 with Robbie, and I believe I'm 5-0 watching games with Robbie in this postseason. So,
by the way, he's coming over tomorrow for anyone keeping track. So,
There you go. Yeah, but I said you better have your ass over there for the World Series, Brian, especially since the Yankees not in it.
Of course. But back to this game, the Nationals kind of emphatically put the hammer down in this game with the 7 runs in the first inning. Corbin was great from the jump, really. He struck out well. He did struggle a little bit, and the Cardinals were able to make a fight in this game. But you got to give credit to Daniel Hudson, especially for coming in and getting the 4-out save, getting out of that bases-loaded jam. As soon as he got Matt Carpenter ground out to end the 8th inning, I knew the Nationals were going to win the game. That's just the type of momentum swings that they needed. That's the type of stuff that doesn't normally happen to the Nationals either. And it's happened to them quite a bit this postseason. So momentum strongly on their side. This is a great win. This is great. You guys deserve this. All National fans, congratulations. It's really cool. Even as a DMV resident, even though I'm not a National fan, it's very cool to see the World Series come to this area. Very like it was when the Stanley Cup came to the area 2 years ago. I think this will be a lot of fun.
I want to piggyback on two quick things that Brian said. I love the coverage after we won that NBC was running. It was pretty hilarious to see people streaming out of there just drunk as hell and just going crazy. It did remind me a lot of the Capitals when we finally broke through and made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. So that was just a great thing. I'm just so happy. I think that that's one thing that people could easily overlook. Winning the National League is winning a championship. We're not done by any means, but it is a championship, unlike, I feel like, winning conferences in other sports. Because the sports are very different. The National League and the American League, as Brian will tell you, are very, very different with having a designated hitter and the double switch and how all that changes things. So winning the National League is a huge, huge thing into itself. And I was really excited to see them party. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I agree. I was very nervous in the bottom of the 8th because in bases loaded, let's say they get a grand slam there. They take the lead, and you have to probably pull your closer. So things could have changed a lot in that situation. So the fact that he was able to dig down deep and get that last out in the 8th was very, very large. It's something that we had not happened in previous runs.
I wouldn't, even if they did get the grand slam at that point. The way the Nats played this year, I feel like they would get the runs in the bottom of the ninth, and I think that's the same way they felt, and that's the way they felt most of the playoffs with how we ended the game with a grand slam in the 10th against the Dodgers. So this team doesn't have any fight. I was nervous. I had some Drew Storm flashbacks. I'm not going to lie, but this is a different team, and I felt like even if they did, get runs, manufacture runs, or even get a grand slam and take the lead, would still be able to get over that and win the game. That's just the feeling I had.
I mean,
I had a weird sense of confidence to it, and anybody who's been a fan of this squad for any length of time, you would know that it makes sense when I say a strange sense of confidence. So I was worried myself, man, especially when I saw that bobble right over there at first. So I was happy he got that last out. And plus, I mean, think about this. I mean, how many pitches was that 4 out? Say, was it about 24, 25 pitches? I mean, that was no small order by any means. So I was hyped, and I'm just happy they're there. And like Brian, you got to go. You got to watch the game with Robbie. I mean, you got to every single game. You got to go.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Brian knows his responsibility now, so he knows what he has to do.
Right.
Let's talk about a little bit. Hey man, we gotta do. He's been a Yankee fan though. He knows what it feels like to win one. We trying to get that feeling too. We felt like we got the Stanley Cup. Now World Series to make it a little bit better. But I wanted to talk about this Strasburg opting out situation. He signed a long-term deal. He's in essence making $25 million a year. He has 4 years left, $100 million. He has the option to opt out and to try his hand in free agency if he chooses to, which, with the position he's in right now, wins leader in the National League, I believe innings leader in the National League, second in strikeouts. He could have a huge payday out there, especially with teams like the Yankees looking for another starter, that he can probably up his salary to maybe 35, close to $40 million a year, if possible, if the right team picks him up. Brian, since the Yankees are possibilities, talk to them doing some signings with the the things that happened in the last game and the last series. What do you think about Strasburg's possibility opting out and testing the free agent market, and then we'll go to Robbie and Paul after that?
Yeah, if Strasburg opts out, he's instantly one of the biggest free agents on the market, especially with the way he's played this postseason. Personally, as a Yankee fan, like you said, I would love to have him on my team. But I know you guys don't want that, so I won't talk too much about that. But I do think that if Strasburg opts out, he's in a position to make a lot, maybe even more money than he's already making. So, especially after the postseason run he's had, the Yankees are in a similar position with their closer, Aroldis Chapman, where he has the ability to opt out after this season, and he could potentially make a lot more money than he's making now. So it's interesting to see if the Yankees bring him back. Similar situation. But about Strasburg, I personally think Strasburg should opt out. I'm not saying he shouldn't return to the Nationals, because that would be a good thing if he did return to the Nationals, but I think he should opt out and try and see what the money is like out there, because based off the season he's had this season, is probably the best season of his career, but regular season and playoffs included. He is in a position to really up his bank account. It's good size to see Strasburg right now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want him to opt out, but I definitely understand from a money point of view why you would. It's interesting how, obviously, the contracts for the Nationals, they always backload it, so that way they get paid over a long period of time. So even if he were to leave, he'd probably still get paid by the Nationals and by a new team. But I'm hoping that he's able to stick with us. I saw a comment on my Facebook Live feed saying they can't wait for Verlander versus Scherzer in Game 2. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen because Max is going in Game 1 versus Cole. But it would still be interesting to see Verlander versus Strasburg in Game 2, which is what it looks like it's going to be. But yeah, it's going to be tough because there's a lot of pieces that we need to re-sign. And, with Tony Two Bags coming up and him rejecting, the $30 million a year contract and wanting more, it's going to be interesting to see who we can hold on to. But we just got to focus on this year. Try to win it this year, and we can deal with contracts in the upcoming, off season.
I'm never mad at anybody for getting paid, right? Granted, you want him to stay as a Nationals fan, but, given his history, I mean, he's had injuries, he's had issues staying healthy a lot, man. So, after this season now is as good a time as any to test the market. So, I mean, if he does, I can't be mad at him. But I was going to say, Brian, I was hoping as a fan of the Nationals, and I know they've been flirting with signing Ronald Chapman trade for him multiple times in the past. He would be a good consolation gift if Strasburg did end up leaving. I've always wanted Ronald Chapman. I remember when he played for the Reds, I was like, man, it's almost like cheating getting that dude out there in a nice inning. But hopefully Strasburg will end up staying in D.C. But, I mean, if I was him, I'd definitely be testing that market too, especially after this season. And it's not over yet. I mean, he may have an epic performance in the World Series. Who knows? So, I mean, now is as good a time as any, I feel, for him.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the truth in the reality situation. If he does, we'll see what happens. But he's definitely went from a thrower to a pitcher. He's definitely matured and come out of his shell more. If you watch some of the footage that we've put on our page or some of the stuff on MLB Network and some of the coverage that they've had, they've got him to open up more. He was always quiet, off to himself, not really talking to the media. Now, you see him doing interviews, opening up. You see him, the players' power. He always hugs them whenever he comes off the field. Says that they shower him with love to get him to open up. So, I mean, I'm hoping that he has the family feel, and even if he does opt out, if the Nets are in a position to, throw some more money at him, hope they can and re-sign him. But with Rendon, as we mentioned also, which is going to be my next topic before we finish up this round of Nets talk, before we get into the second round of World Series preview, we'll do a quick round robin about Rendon. With him, as Robbie mentioned, declining the offer and testing free agency. Do any of you guys think that he'll be back in the Nets uniform next year? Brian, I go to you first, and Robbie and Paul.
I think it'll be tough. I mean, the Nationals are going to have to seriously up their offer. If it's anything like what we've heard originally, I think what the terms were $210 million a year over 7 years. And it sounds like Rendon was like, no, I think I can get way more money than that. Based off the season Rendon's had this year, he probably can. So it's going to be close. It's going to be definitely a tough call to see whether Rendon comes back. But if the Nationals, were to spend money on a player like this, similar to how they would have spent money for Bryce Harper, now is the time to do it. Instead of letting another player like Rendon leave. That would be frustrating for the Nationals. I know everybody's kind of piling on Bryce right now with the Nationals in the World Series, but it would be kind of tough for them to lose two franchise players like that back-to-back off season. So the Nationals are going to have to up their offer, I think, if they want to keep Tony around for another couple of years.
Sounds good. Paul, what do you say? And then we'll go back to Brian for his rant on the Houston Astros before we finish up this session of Nats Talk.
Yeah, I would hope that we won't go back-to-back off seasons. One year losing Bryce Harper. I mean, granted, Bryce Harper, they weren't going to pay him that much money, and I'm glad they didn't. And I don't have a problem with Bryce Harper at all. Hell, I still follow Bryce Harper on Instagram, But I would hope they won't lose Bryce Harper, Anthony Rendon, and Steven Strasburg in back-to-back years. That'd be catastrophic.
Oh, God, the horror, man. Go ahead, Paul.
That'd be a catastrophe. And then we got to worry about a couple years from now guys like Trey Turner and those guys. So, I feel like you have to bring back one of those two. If Strasburg opts out, they have to bring back either him or Rendon. And you're not going to get both if Strasburg opts out. I just don't think you're going to get both. But I feel as though I've always been a big Rendon guy. You got to kind of look at what Machado got and then kind of increase that some, especially after this year if Rendon ends up winning MVP. But I would rather bring back Anthony Rendon than Strasburg. Now, I'm not sleeping on starting pitching, but the thing is, this guy plays every day. I feel as though you got to do what you can to bring him back. Hopefully they do. But like you said, Carl, nightmare scenario, man. We can't lose those three dudes in back-to-back off seasons. No way.
Well, if they do, hopefully it's a consolation that they'll have a World Series in their back pocket before they do. That's the only way that'll be a silver lining. But Brian, I'll let you finish up this session of Nats Talk with your Astros, with your recap of the ALCS, and get your rant on the Houston Astros off your chest on the air for you, man. Go ahead. Let it rip, man.
Oh, man, Carol, I am still so absolutely devastated about what happened on Saturday. For those of you who didn't see the game on Saturday, the Yankees were down 4-2 in the ninth inning, facing elimination, down 3-2 in the series. DJ LeMahieu hit a 2-run home run in the ninth inning to tie the game. And then, so you're thinking, great, all Aroldis Chapman has to do pitch a scoreless bottom of the ninth inning and we can head to extra innings. But that's not what happened. He got the first 2 out and then gave up a walk. And Jose Altuve, man, dude is the biggest Yankee killer since Big Papi. I swear to God. And he comes up and he absolutely crushes the ball to the moon, ending the series, ending the Yankees season, sending the Astros to the World Series, and sending me into a lot of pain because I am still incredibly frustrated by this series and how it turned out, especially how it ended. And all I can say is I am, for the next week and a half, a full-fledged Nationals fan because I absolutely cannot stand the Houston Astros. They've eliminated my Yankees now 3 times in the playoffs in the last 4 years. So I absolutely hate the Astros. Not as much as the Red Sox, not as much as the Mets, but I definitely have a special place of hatred for the Houston Astros. And, man, go Nationals in this series. That's all I got to say.
All right, Paul, that was more PG than Brian, that was more PG than I expected. I expected a couple of F-bombs in there.
It's a family show. It's a family show.
True. Hey, man, when it comes to your Yankees, I know how it can get sometimes, man. But we appreciate the time. Did you want to stick around? We was going to talk some more World Series after football talk. Did you want to stick around, or you had to go take care of some other baseball things to try to kneecap Giancarlo Stanton or something to get him back in the lineup because he didn't at all?
I'm actually at Michael Edgley's house tonight, so I'm actually going to go hang out with him. But I appreciate you guys having me on. And like I said, good luck to the Nationals. Screw the Houston Astros, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right, bro. Appreciate it, man. Take it easy. We'll catch you next time.
Right. One thing I wanted to note, just because we had Brian Brennan on the line, unfortunately, DC United did end up losing their game. It was 1-1, went to extra time. The DC United was able to actually tie it in stoppage time in the 93rd minute, I believe, but they allowed 4 goals in the extra time and ended up losing that game 5-1, I believe. So that was a disappointing result for DC United in the playoffs, and it ends the career of a really great soccer player for for DC United, which is disappointing because I had a lot of hopes for this season, but I don't know. We won't talk soccer too much. I know that you broke down a little bit, Carol, on the pregame show, which I know surprised Brian, but just overall, I thought it was a good season for DC United, but it kind of fell apart for them towards the end, and they got a bad draw, and they ended up losing a close game for most of the game, but pretty badly by the end. So, disappointing end to the season for DC United. I wanted to mention that since I know Brian's a big soccer fan.
All right, appreciate that insight. Real quick on the DC United. DC People's Champ caught me off guard with that in the pregame yesterday.
I saw that. Yeah, I know. I was impressed. I watched that live too. I was also surprised. So, all right. Are we gonna go to a music?
We got Dujanay on the line already. Paul, would you want to stick around for Redskins talk and World Series preview after we finish up with football?
Oh man, I hear the little youngest members of the Army making some noise, so I'm gonna have to go tend to them. But all I gotta say is, damn man, Redskins. That's all you can say. So that's my input on Redskins talk. But I'm gonna have to miss out on the World Series preview. But you have to believe I'm gonna be back on. Hopefully they'll still be playing deep into the the series, and it won't be no 4-game sweep like we did against the Cardinals. So I'll definitely be back on the next edition for sure.
All right, that's very good. Look, go ahead and take care of the Army before they come out and jump you. I know it's a lot of them. But appreciate you taking the time, man. Yeah, the small ones always are, man. So we definitely got to get you back on to talk some boxing. I know a lot's been going on and that you got to talk about, and we ain't get a chance to cover. But we gonna bring something to you. If it's a Facebook Live, we'll have them on the next show when we'll talk some boxing. But appreciate you taking the time, man. Go ahead and enjoy the night. We'll holler at you next time.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for having me on. Just real quick, November, December, big months in boxing, so definitely we're going to get to it as the weeks go on.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Take it easy. Have a good night.
Y'all too now.
All right. I was going to take a music break, but since we already got Dujane on the line, I'm going to go ahead and get him on so we can break down this Redskins game and look forward to this Thursday night game against Minnesota. Man, how you doing tonight, my brother?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, we were talking about the good, you know, the Nationals making to the World Series, you know, and now we got to talk about some of the bad and the ugly with the Redskins losing to the 49ers 9-0 to drop their record to 1-6. 49ers now improved to 6-0. If you watched the post game yesterday, I'm not mad at the game. San Francisco had average 30 points a game. Redskins gave up 9. Weather did aid in that, but it could have been an embarrassment like the Chicago game on Monday night. They could have looked ill prepared. They were able to get over 100 yards, something that nobody had done against their defense. Were able to, you know, build off the performance they had last week with the Miami victory to get the first win of the season. This team still has, you know, ways to go, but we've seen a change in, you know, practice. We've seen a change in game plans and where the emphasis lies on, you know, running game and balance. So there were a couple of good things, a lot of bad things. The penalties, the missed field goal by Hopkins, which I felt, you know, would have, you know, gave a little bit of momentum to the team with the way they came out in the first quarter and ran the ball down their throat. It was, you know, refreshing to see the same team that everyone was telling me, oh, they can't run the ball. That's why the other guy used to pass so much in the same line and same team averages over 100 yards rushing in 2 games since he's been gone. So I see progress. You know, a lot of fans want immediate progress and already hating on Bill Callahan and yada, 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 but we'll get into that later on. Dujane, what was your take of this game? We didn't even really talk about it at all, so I'm definitely anxious to hear how you felt about this game.
I mean, the field conditions are what they are. I know a lot has been made of that, and you know, it's one of those things that can happen to anybody, and when it happens at FedEx, it's pretty sloppy. I thought Bill had a pretty good approach coming out. I didn't have a problem with him coming out and being insistent on running the football, you know, aside of whether they were going to have success or not. You know, they were really successful with it, but you definitely needed Case to hit a few throws. You know, I know the whole wet ball and how sloppy it is, but, you know, I go back to Jimmy Garoppolo. They didn't toss the rock deep or anything like that, but they ran a lot of crossing routes and a lot of things that, honestly, the Redskins could have run as well. Just simply because the fact that they were stacking the box and you know, they were still having success running the football, but you needed those plays, at least a few of them anyway, to kind of help you out there. Other than that, though, I have no you know qualms about what their approach was. You know, maybe there were some ill-advised calls at sometimes in down and distance situations that, you know, you'd like to have back, but overall, another 3 and maybe a half quarter performance, at least 3 solid quarters performance for the defense. And you know, in this game though, I mean, they, you know, obviously they made some adjustments. The 49ers did and had some success, but I mean, it really could have been touchdowns, and the defense bowed up. I know people want to be like, okay, well, you know, the weather conditions or whatever, but you know what? Both defenses had to play in the same weather conditions, and I feel like the Redskins did a pretty good job overall in giving their offense an opportunity to at least be able to score a touchdown. And in a game like that, they could have gotten a touchdown even when it was 6-0. I really felt like that could have been a sealing game. Something that could seal the game right there, just because of how hard they come by, how hard they are to come by in those types of situations. Those touchdowns, that one touchdown could have been like having 14 points there. So I'll tell you what it does show, though. It shows that honestly, as much as they sit here and talk about Case Keenum and him giving them the best chance to win, the guy couldn't throw lawn darts. It was pretty. I understand the wet football and all, but that was ugly. I mean, he threw maybe two passes that the receiver saved his behind on, and could have been turnovers. So, again, he's, in my opinion, has done nothing but regress. Aside from having two decent performances, he's regressed, though, since his week one performance every week. And it was clear that they didn't want to put the ball in his hands and have him turn it over. Unfortunately, that fumble lost by AP was tough. That was probably the one that did them in. But I think you have to be satisfied with what's given. I mean, you got some people out. You got some tight ends that aren't experts at blocking. And right now with Sprinkle, he's not consistent in catching the ball either. There's a lot of little things here and there, but yeah, I don't know about you guys, but watching that offensive line being able to run, I thought they were able to protect Case a lot better when it was time for pass. It also allowed them to impose their will, and I think you saw that wear down on that defense. If they just could have hit a few passes, a few plays, and some crossing routes, to help move the chains, I think they may have been able to really, take a hold of the game quickly. That first drive was tough, not coming away points. But with that said, it wasn't as bad as it appears to be, and it may not be as good as it appears to be. It may be somewhere in the middle. But there's definitely progress. Guys are still fighting. You're seeing young guys step up, and this is what it's all about. I mean, it's a young football team, and each and every week is a growing experience, and they'll get another one on Thursday.
No doubt. I'm going to piggyback off of what you were saying about Case. I had a couple of discussions with folks. They was talking about put Haskins in. I was like, it's only been 2 weeks since he's been taking first-team snaps. Give it some time. DC People's Champ and myself were talking about it yesterday. I was saying put him in maybe this game, but he made a valid point that they should probably wait until after the bye week to at least for him to have at least 4 weeks under his belt of doing first-team reps and at least working with the first team some. What do you think about that, the possibility of him coming in after the bye week, or you think they might pull the trigger on that sooner with Case's latest performance of 50 yards?
I will say I wasn't an advocate for. I'm not going to bash Bill for not putting him in that game. What I will say is that if you're doing what he did, and with the few throws that he did make, I believe the young man could have done just as good, if not better, with that performance. And I say that with this, there has been over the weeks, especially after that 5-turnover game for him, he is clearly seeing the rush, which is causing his eyes to shorten to 10 yards, 15 yards at best. He can't see the field deep. He's not seeing things well when it is in front of him because he sees the rush. Tired of seeing that. 2, the lazy, irresponsible, and uneducated reporting of the local media is grind my gears a bit when it comes down to Dwayne Haskins. Look, I don't care about what front office coach is saying that he ain't ready. The bottom line is, it's your job to take that talent and to get him ready. So I'm tired of hearing the excuses when you got 2 chumps that couldn't pass their way out of a wet paper bag right now. Okay? So don't give me the best chance to win crap. Should you start him on a short week? I would say the answer is no, unless these past 2 weeks, since they have started incorporating a new way to get and to incorporate him and speed along his growth process, a package that you have been working on for the past 2 weeks, then you could easily start him right here on this short week. With that said, you'd like to see the young man get some real reps and not walk through reps. So Buffalo, though, and I said this on my podcast, Lake Lewis has said this as well. I don't care if Case goes out on Thursday and throws for 600 yards and 7 touchdowns. He doesn't start against the Buffalo Bills. And we all know that ain't happening. So this team will more than likely be 1-7. You know their record on Mondays, Thursdays, and Sunday nights. So this team will be 1-7. Even if they are 2-6, I don't care. You're not going anywhere. And with the quarterback draft that is upon you in this upcoming year, you need to know whether this guy can be the catalyst that carries this offense through the adversity. And he's only going to learn by being able to be out there. He's going to make his share of mistakes, sure, but he's going to learn from those mistakes. And if any of these jabronis that allegedly report on this team, although they act like they're fans of this team instead of reporters, then you go back and you look at the college tape, and you look at some of the things coming out in some of the talks that some of these responsible reporters have had with Dwayne Haskins on breaking down college tape. He is very well astute in knowing how to read a defense and where he's supposed to go with the ball with defense. Now, may it be difficult for him to call out the entire play with confidence? That is likely possible. But that notion of whether he can read defenses or not, and this, that, and the other, I'm so sick of it. Because none of those idiots were saying that in April when they drafted him at 15. All right? Now, all of a sudden, with all this stuff and the fact that he's not playing, is all of a sudden an indictment on this young man and whether his work ethic is capable or not. Miss me with that nonsense. And yet these people have jobs and get paid to do what they do. It's a shame. And all they do is, it's almost like politics. All they do is stir up stuff that's hearsay instead of reporting the facts. If you don't know, then maybe you should keep your mouth shut or do research to find out. That's all I'm going to say on that. But, yeah, Dwayne should be started by Buffalo. Point blank, period.
Don't get me started on the DC sports media, but so you're saying starting before the bye week against Buffalo instead of waiting for the game against the Jets after the bye week.
Yeah, and my whole notion is your job is to get this boy ready, all right? And the thing of it is, good coaches can run with what a player does well. They got nothing but time. They're supposed to be working and have accelerated this process, right? Okay? And he's not an idiot. So put him in there with a package of plays, and your philosophy is run the football, correct? So he ain't passing the ball that much. I mean, look at this game here. My man threw it,
12 times.
12. Come on, bro. I can get him to do that. If you're trying to keep his number around 21, 22, you can do that. You got with the commitment to the run, and you know the stats. I think it's 4.6 yards to carry over the past 2 games. AP has 199 yards on 43 carries. The possibility of guys coming back within the next, by Buffalo, maybe after the bye week. Look, man, you guys are good, and you can set up something for this guy to run. If you can't set up something for this guy to be able to run and be successful, because we see quarterback changes all the time with guys who ain't getting first-team reps, and you insert them. And if you cannot do that, then you got a bigger problem on your hands. And that just means that you are not the guy that should ever be considered as a head coach if you can't get a guy ready. It goes for the guy who used to be here, and it goes for these sapsuckers that are on staff right now that are fighting for a job and a possibility to be the head coach of this football team. So that's your job. So do your job. And if you can't do your job, they'll find somebody that can do your job. That simple.
I feel you. I see no flaw in your logic. Let's talk a little bit about the defense, and then we'll get into some Minnesota breakdown for Thursday night. We saw some good things. We saw some bad. We saw some pressure. but we also saw a lot of missed tackles, I'd say. Due to weather was a part of it, but there were a couple of chances where they had an opportunity to get a sack on the quarterback or to get them up short, and they just didn't come through with it. In my point of view, some of it was, them not wanting to hit the quarterback too hard, because on that one play with Matt Ioannidis, pretty much had him dead to rights, but he made a little shimmy move, and we saw Ioannidis didn't go his full, front like he wanted to, and I think that kind of helped aid that along with the weather. But we seeing the same things without Josh Norman. They wasn't really pressured that much in the passing game because of the run-heavy game. But I still like what I saw. Still got room to grow. Still got room to perform. And the third downs, I'm just to the point where all I can do is just shake my head at these third downs. The teams are finding a way to convert, and we're not finding a way to get off the field. What did you see from the defense? Did you see any progress, or did you see regression, or what did you take away from this defense holding the 49ers to 9 points, whether aided?
I thought they did a pretty good job. Second half, obviously, they had better first half numbers as far as third down conversions were going than they did in the second half. It was another game like the end of the Miami game. They kept them out of the end zone, and at this point, if you can just find the formula that you had in the first 2 weeks where this team scored upwards of 20-plus points, and you can hold teams to where they've held them. And obviously, weather is a thing. But, we've seen this team get gashed for runs even without the weather. So I think you have to give them some credit here, especially when it comes down to a slippery field. And you can easily get out of position, and if you get out of position on that field, you're going to give a running back a lot of daylight. And I thought they did an excellent job of just swarming the ball and not allowing these consistent big runs. Unfortunately, the second half didn't play out that way, and that just comes down to them having to finish ball games. I know people want to say the amount of 3 and outs because Washington offensively was only 3 of 9 on third downs, which has been their problem and a killer for them offensively as well. But both defenses were pretty much facing the same type of constant being out on the field during that game, and I think that takes a physical toll on your defense. Because not only are you out there, but now you're carrying the weight of the water, soaking your pads, your jersey, the mud. It's a fight out there, and I thought given the conditions and how long they were out there, they did a admirable job. There's some breakdowns in coverages. The crossing route is still an issue for this defense. But like you said, you like to see him get home on a couple of those sacks where he scampers off, getting a first down, etc. You get a couple of those, maybe field position's a little bit better for your offense, and you get a couple extra shots at kicking a field goal or something of that nature. But I think you have to be pleased with what their improvements are. Obviously, everything's not fixed, but given the circumstances, I thought they played pretty well, and they gave their offense, most importantly, opportunities to score, and gave their offense the opportunity to siege hold of the game, and they just couldn't do that, for various reasons we discussed earlier.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I say, we're seeing progress. We're seeing flashes of what this defense and what this team can be. They just got to put it together, be consistent, and do a whole 4 quarters. That's what we're still waiting for. We always talk about 3 periods in hockey and 9 innings in baseball. We still haven't seen 4 quarters out of this team. And I'll use that segue into the next 4 quarters this team has on Thursday against Minnesota in Minnesota with so-called hot Kirk Cousins, who's the high highest rated passer right now, I believe, at a 114.2. The Vikings are sitting 5-2. To me, Kirk still have the same issues of beating a team above 500. Being the Redskins aren't above 500, there's opportunity for him to have a good time and, like Kyle, leave out of here with a redemption victory. I feel like if the Redskins can get pressure on him and force him into some bad throws and fumbleitis like we've seen in his past year and in the season in 1/3 in Minnesota, I think there's a chance this team could, maybe pull an upset if they play some mistake-free football and not all the penalties and turning the ball over. What do you think about this Minnesota matchup on a short week for this team that just got shut out by the 49ers?
I think it's a loss. And that's just going on past history and what we've seen this year. With that said, though, I will lead with this premise of glimpse of hope, or whatever you want to call it. This is Bill Callahan-led Washington Redskins, though. And I felt like when he took over as interim, I thought they were pretty well prepared. And I understand it's the Dolphins. Get that. You have this deluge of water this weekend against the 49ers at home, an undefeated team. All the negative connotations. Obviously, there's nothing positive for them about being at home because it's not really a home. And then having that big, huge monkey wrench thrown at you, the adjustments that he had to make looked like this team was prepared. They had an identity and a philosophy, and they stuck to it. And I think, with that said, if he has a game plan, they have a chance. Because it appears that this team is fighting. If they're anything prepared and can at least connect on some of the things that we saw earlier, and he missed, Casey's been missing some throws, some deep throws. We can see some of these things that they did in the Miami game. That they have a shot because the Vikings aren't that great when it comes to their passing defense. They're 17th in the league. The run, though, they're 7th in the league. They only now allow 90 yards a game. But, hey, if the Redskins rush for 90, and you can get Case to put up a decent 300, you might have yourself an opportunity to win ball games. We all know what Kirk is. I don't care how he's looked over the past couple of weeks. Good for him. When it gets to the lights are big, and he's, like you said, teams over 500, and these are must-win games, playoff games, we know what normally happens if he goes MIA. So this team knows Kirk pretty well, and I think they'll try to do some things. But if they can be stout on defense and force the ball into Kirk's hands, and this offense can find a way to score some points, a la Eagles game, a la Miami game, they have a shot. But I don't think that they win this game at all. And I really think that the offense is stifled by the fact that Case looks more than rattled and is not seeing the field. He's a shell-shocked person, and I'm not really sure if he's injured or what, but he's definitely seeing a lot of the rush, and a lot of times it's not there. You got to stand in there and make that throw. You got to see your guys downfield that are, guys like Richardson and McLaurin have been running wide open in those last two games. The one in Miami, the one I believe the Patriots game as well, and he's not seeing it. So those things can change, and he can hit a couple of those. They have an opportunity. It is Thursday night. Thielen's not going to be in. He's banged up. They got Cook in that running back deal. But, if you go in with the mentality of not allowing them to run the football, put it in Kirk's hands and let him beat you and see where the chips fall. So, they have a shot in that instance just because Bill is the coach. And I'm sure he will have them more prepared than when said guy was here before. So he has see that happen.
Very true, very true. I think it's going to be like I said, all I want to see is improvement. I want to see fight. I want to see them play for 4 quarters. And if they can get a win, cool. Because, like you said, the season is where it is. But I think this team could, with the right, like you say, right game plan, right philosophy, and execution on the field without dumb mistakes and penalties, they could, potentially win a couple of games that a lot of folks, like we said, that 4-12, 3-13 prediction, I thought it was disrespectful, but I'm guessing it was more on point than I would like to admit. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see what this team does. With the Cade situation, I think he's definitely feeling some of the rush and pressure, but with both your tight ends out, no real security blanket, Sprinkle hasn't been consistent. That's normally one of his bailout, when the rush comes, he can know he can trust Vernon or, he hasn't seen Jordan all season. But, normally he's used to having Vernon out there at least that knows someone that's going to catch the ball and execute. So I'm hoping for the same that you with this not-so-great secondary and with McLaurin and Richardson, because I didn't get a chance to see Richardson running free. I just saw some of the routes he was running last week against Miami, and, I wasn't really too impressed with his fight for the ball and trying to out muscle and out leverage the defender. But I didn't study it. So if you see that, that's encouraging. That hear that, because I definitely didn't see that in that Miami game. But it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup on a short week. Kurt has something to prove, and the Redskins got something to try to show that they know what they're doing out there on the football field, especially on the prime time night. Everyone knows how this team does on the national stage, and it's sad to say that it's known, but the only way you can change that is by winning and executing and doing what needs to be done. So hopefully they can make that happen and get a victory going into a nice little 10-day layoff before that next game. Dujanay, let the folks know where they can find you and to get some more of this great football coverage. And before we get up out of here and talk a little bit of World Series before we get off the air tonight.
Well, you can find the written work at sportsjourney.com. We just posted both of the podcasts right on the site, so you can literally listen from the site, just press play, and it makes it easy on you. If you want to carry it with you, you're very well to look up the podcast on any of the major podcasting sites. It should be there. And as always, Carol, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Dujanay, can I ask a couple of quick questions before you go? I pulled up the XFL draft, and I know that you haven't been following it too closely, but I thought there were some interesting names that popped up to me and that were big in college, and I just thought I would ask you about a couple of them real quick. Is that cool? Do you have like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so if people don't know, the draft happened this past week in the XFL, and so I'll put up on my screen the full draft results and stuff like that in a second, but a couple of big-name people stood out. So in Phase 1, you do skill players. Phase 2, you do offensive line. Phase 3, defensive front seven. Then Phase 4, there's defensive backs, and then Phase 5 is an open draft. They did their draft on a conference call using just a very simple conference call program in an Excel spreadsheet. So it looked kind of like something you would see on a fantasy draft. It didn't look super professional, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. This is obviously the second run of the XFL. The first one kind of went up in flames. But some of the big names that we had gotten in Phase 1 was, do you remember Donnell Pumphrey from the San Diego State Aztecs? He was the NCAA record holder for rushing yards, and he had a bunch of hamstring injuries, I believe, and he was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles originally, but I think that he could be a really interesting running back for us. What do you know about him?
Yeah, he was slated to be a stout player. Unfortunately, injuries didn't allow his career to pan out in the NFL. But I think he could be a pretty interesting guy out there, along with a lot of those young talent that they have. It'll be interesting to see what he does, because I the same, if not better, product than the AAF was. So, but yeah, I like that guy a lot. Hope that he can stay healthy enough to show what he can do.
Yeah, for sure. A couple other ones. One other one in the Phase 1 draft, a big-name guy. He kind of played for James Madison, so he gets a little bit less love. You know, that's not a big-name school in the same way. Was Rashard Davis. He was known as, he had the honor of the top pick in Phase 1 of the XFL, and he was a dominant receiver at the FCS level. He set the single-season record for punt return yards and touchdowns, and he's been on a bunch of different practice squads. But I mean, he's definitely can be a dominant wide receiver. It'll be interesting to see. He didn't quite make it at the NFL level, but did you ever hear about him, Rashad Davis, that is?
Yeah, I believe. I think he had a stint with the Chiefs, didn't he?
I think that sounds right. Yeah, it says here he was with a bunch of different teams but there was a lot of practice squads, and he just never really stuck. But he definitely has an ability with the quick move to get some yak yardage. So get some yards after the catch rather. Able to. He's a shifty wide receiver, as they say.
Right. Yeah, and again, this league and they should have a good slate of talent. And hopefully he gets in a position where he can kind of refine his skills and allow himself to elevate his game. Could be a thing where he catapults him back into the league.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. They give a quarterback to every team. Cardell Jones was the one that they gave to the Defenders. He played really well in college football for Ohio State, right? So if I remember correctly, didn't he win them the championship?
I believe that was him.
Yeah, so he's a pretty good quarterback to have behind center. And if you're following live on my page, I also share it to Sports on the Hill podcast. I've got a full list of the DC Defenders roster. I encourage people to go check out the full listing. There's a bunch of interesting names. About 50% of the names have a blue link on them. That means they have Wikipedia pages. If you go to DC Defenders on Wikipedia, you can check out some of them. So it'll be interesting to see. There's some people that I'd heard of before, some people I hadn't. But I'm just kind of excited for there to be another football team here in DC. They play a 10-game season, I believe, in their first season. It's owned by Vince McMahon, the guy who owns the WWE. Hopefully, they said it'll be less gimmicky than the last time they did it, but they will have interesting cameras. I believe that the camera that we have that floats over the field is actually a camera that originally came from the XFL. So it'll be interesting to see these new camera angles, some on the helmets, and they're going to try to bring in some stuff that they've seen in an Arena Football League. He also said there's going to have a bunch of different rules. I don't know what those new rules will be yet, but it'll be interesting to see if another league can take footing in a football-starved time period. The time after the Super Bowl and before spring training. There's a demand for football. It'll be interesting to see people come out in the cold and come out to an Audi Field, which is a really nice venue for some football.
I'll tell you what, too. I said it when the AAF came out. As long as you're not trying to beat the NFL, I think you're going to be fine. There's a market for more football, quality football. So I think it'll go over pretty well. And I just noticed that the Defenders got Tyreek Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really liked him. I really liked him at the Senior Bowl. He just, for whatever reason, didn't make the roster. Teams aren't carrying 3 quarterbacks that much anymore. I think that's going to be pretty awesome. He has a lot of skill. He's a raw talent, though. But I even thought that he had better intangibles than Daniel Jones did. Obviously, Daniel Jones is more polished in other areas that you need quarterbacks to be polished at. But I really like Tyreek Jackson, and it'll be interesting to see him in this league and how well he performs.
For sure. Well, thank you for going down, because I know you follow the college game, so I know that some of these names you had heard of before. So again, about 50% of them are people that people had heard of before, and 50% probably not so much. But it'll be interesting to see how this league does. I believe there are 8 teams in this league, and yeah, I wish them good luck. We're working on press credentials right now. I've already been in contact with the team, so we're trying to get that and try to get out to a game at Audi Field. But hopefully, Dujane, you and I can maybe break down future DC Defenders stuff down the line.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm definitely going to be watching because I love football. So I want to see what they bring and how well they display it, and what their brand's going to look like. So it should be interesting. I encourage everybody to watch it. Really, I think at a time when there's no football and everybody's clamoring for some kind of football, I think it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, the XFL's got some big. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Ironically, what you guys talking about the Defenders, I'm watching wrestling right now. Shout out to DC People's Champ and No Spots Podcast on Friday. They just had Cardell Jones at the arena and giving him a shout out with the XFL Defenders logo underneath of his name. So that's ironic. Y'all ain't talking about it. He popped up on my television.
That is pretty cool. And by the way, ABC, ESPN, and Fox Sports, including Fox Sports 1 and 2, will be covering it. So they got a good TV deal. And the championship, I believe, will be on ESPN. So, that's a big deal in the sense that it's not like it's just NBC who has a vested interest. To have ESPN as a vested interest is a huge thing because they'll push it on SportsCenter, and hopefully that will give them a chance to get past the ill-fated one-year leagues that we've seen before.
Yeah, I agree. Now, especially with the NFL, with all the rules and things that they change, you're definitely going to have a crowd that's going to check it out to see, how it is, if it's not as, confined as the NFL game, if they let, not all the head hits and all the questionable roughing the passers when they touch the helmet with a finger or whatever. So there's definitely going to be hunger for it. I know folks should probably tune in.
For sure. Well, we'll be there in the inaugural season for sure. So even if no one else covers it, we will.
No doubt. All right, dude, I'm going to let you get out. I know you probably got an article to work on or a show to do or somebody to interview in your busy life. So I appreciate you taking the time, man, and you have a good night. We'll talk to you later on, man. Thank you, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right, later. All right, as always, I'd like to appreciate, thank Dujane for his time, taking out to break down some of this great NFL content. I guess we could just shoot the stuff a little bit about the World Series before we wrap up. Quick 5-10 minute finish the show, since this has been the first time that I know I've been invested in the World Series. I've watched before, but never, have an invested interest of my team being there. So I'm actually watching on MLB Network. They're breaking down the path to the championship for the Nationals. So I've been watching that along with WWE. So I can't wait for the pitching matchup. These two teams are kind of like evenly matched in the pitching and the offense and the defense. The bullpens are similar, both giving about 4 runs a game in the postseason until the Nats went on the last 6 games they had going scoreless and pretty much hitless, given times they were used in the divisional series and the championship series. Houston, they built similarly through the draft. They did a rebuild. They have a couple of international players, just like the Nationals do. They have a 1-2-3 pitching with Verlander, Greinke, and Cole. I don't know how I forgot his name, how hot he is. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see this matchup go down because they're two teams that, kind of mirror each other. And as Robbie pointed out, this is the first time in Major League history that a team started the season against an opponent and end up playing in the World Series. And they share the facility at spring training, so they're definitely familiar with each other. And we should be in for a good series. Robbie, what is your quick take before we get out of here?
Yeah, one fun thing about that is since they share a facility, that means that if you're a Nats fan and you go down and see spring training, you see the championship of the Houston Astros. And that also means that whoever wins this, the championship banner will go up there, and the other team will have to stare at that next spring training. So I really hope that it's the Nationals who get a banner this time, and then Houston has to stare at it, because I'm pretty sure that the Nationals would be pretty upset if they have to stare at two banners and neither of them have their name on it. So it'll definitely be an interesting thing. I think for the most part, Houston is really solid all around. They've got some good hitting and some good pitching. They aren't as deep in the starting lineup. They pitched really 3 pitchers instead of 4. I think that the key to success for the Nationals is to be able to steal one of these first 2 on the road. Hopefully steal this one with Mad Max, because if they're going to have Verlander go in Game 2, I think that Mad Max hopefully can pitch one of his gems and steal one. I would love Strauss to get one as well, but it gives them an opportunity. I don't think they would win 3 in a row at home, but if they were, that gives them the best chance to only have to go down to Texas once. That being said, my prediction is that we might steal one of these first 2, and we might steal one in D.C., but I still have us losing probably in 6. Not because I don't think that we're a good team. I just think Houston's been there before. They're also coming off of less rest. Historically, in baseball, having a long layover is not good for bats. So if the bats stay hot and the pitching can stay hot, we definitely have a shot at this. I don't think it's as bad as Vegas would make it out to be. But at the same time, I don't think... I just think that they've done it so recently, and they have much more playoff experience than the Nationals do, that over a 7-game series, I think that could come to the forefront. But I also thought we were going to maybe win the wild card game. I didn't think we were going to beat the Dodgers. I didn't think we were going to beat the Cardinals. So I've been a naysayer this whole time, and the Nationals have gone out and proved me wrong time and time again. So I'm going to continue that trend and pick against the Nationals for them to prove me wrong once again. But I will have Brian Brennan over, who has been lucky. He said 5-0 so far. My friend John Benson, I'm also going to have over. He was here for the Game 4 win. So I'm going to try to bring Tim over as well. Get all my good luck charm buddies in the man cave with me. And watch a big Nationals game. We'll also have the Capitals game versus the Flames on as well. So a big night for DC Sports overall.
No doubt. My prediction, I'm going to go with Nats in 6. I'm thinking if they get one of the first 2 in Houston, I have confidence that they'll be able to sweep. But Houston being who they are, I'm going to go safe and say Nats in 6. They'll go down to Houston and close out. I would love for them to close out here and have the fireworks shoot off like they had for the NLCS. But like I said, Houston is a formidable team. They definitely know how to win, and it's definitely going to be a fight. I'm not really tripping off the experience factor with the playoffs, because this team has been playing with house money since they won the wild card game, since they were 12-31. So 19-31. So it's to me, it had the same similar feel to the Capitals series. Even though Vegas was the inaugural season and everything, a lot of folks thought that Vegas was going to run roughshod over the Capitals after the Capitals finally exercised their demons of getting out of the second round and beating Pittsburgh. I just think after they finally got that clinching thing off of their back, beating the Dodgers after the Dodgers had celebrated on their field, beating the Cardinals after 2012 and them celebrating on the field, I think that no matter who was in front of this team, that they're going to be able to win. If it was the Yankees, it was the Astros. I thought if it was the Yankees, it would be an easier series because the Yankees are home run swingers, and with great pitching, that gets negated. We saw that against Houston. So I felt like if it was the Yankees, it wouldn't even really be, nothing for the Nats to worry about. But would it be in Houston with them matching up with pitching, defense, and hitting? I think it's definitely going to be a great series to watch, but I'm going with the Nats in 6, and we'll stick with your formula of going against them and see if it all pays off.
Right. It's worked so far. But what an incredible episode. We talked a little bit of DC Defenders, obviously the Nationals, the Capitals, and the Redskins as well. And we'll definitely, next week, we'll have a recap of the first 4 games of the series for the Nats. Hopefully 5 games. And then hopefully it will be necessary for us to preview a couple more games, or not. I mean, it'd be fine if we win in 5, and then we could have a celebration episode next week. But we'll definitely talk Wizards in a couple of weeks. We'll bring them back. Their season is just about to get underway as well. But we'll bring the roundtable back once the baseball season is over. Just too much DC sports to talk about, but we're definitely the best place to catch all of the DC sports. Sports on the Hill podcast. So with that, I'll let Carol do his sign up. But I hope that the Nationals and the Capitals both have a great week. I hope that the Redskins can get a big win on Thursday as well. And I'll send it back to Carol to do our closing.
I appreciate it, Robbie. As always, another great episode. Appreciate you taking the time out. Make sure you check us down at Martini's on Sundays for NFL Game Day, broadcasting pregame and postgame live each and every Sunday. We got the games, we got good food, we got good drinks, we got cold beer. Come on down and check us out, and make sure if you're in the area, check out tomorrow night at the watch party down at Martini's. They have 50-cent wings, $5 Hennessy shots, and good, like I said, good time to be had by all the DC sports fans down there. Come on down there and support the Nats on this World Series attempt to bring a championship home to the DC area for the first time in baseball. So, as always, we appreciate you taking the time out to check us out. You can hit the website, as Robbie told you about, SportsOTHP.com. If you're checking out the YouTube live feed of me going live right now, I get back to some of the comments after the joint renders and everything. There's a little bit more, work to it. We're using the new OBS software that Robbie so generously helped me hook me up with, and I hope you enjoy all of the content and all of the new things we're bringing to you on Sports on the Hill podcast season 4. We always tell you, stay tuned for so much more, because you never know what to expect from this squad. Sports on the Hill, Sports on the Hill, changing the game of DC sports. Takeover is upon us. True Radio Network.